Greg Jenkins is a military veteran, having previously served as a military police officer in the United States Army. He is also the founder of the American Veterans Emergency Response Team, an organization that helps homeless veterans get back on their feet and prevents veteran suicide. In this clip, Greg talks about the troubles he has had trying to get politicians to help him and take up his cause, and also goes a bit more in-depth in the work that his organization does to help veterans. I hope you like and subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, I hope you head over to vetert.com to support the work of Greg Jenkins there. Thank you.
And we've had a pretty dramatic winter after a pretty dramatic once in a century event.
Yes.
But we were talking off camera a little bit about, I guess, what you were going through up here trying to help homeless veterans before the storm, and how that situation kind of got exacerbated during and after the storm.
So before the storm, I was talking about homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people told me there's no homeless here. We take care of everybody.
And just to back up a little bit, I think you were trying to take what you did down in Florida with much success and bring it up here to the high country.
Yeah, we wanted to replicate it.
So you were engaged with the local leaders?
Yes, we did. And we explained to those, because we wanted to transition the same concept up here because of the need.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made the investment, the initial investment, and then we were looking for additional support from the community and from local government. And when I explained to them the homeless crisis here, they were like ignorant to it. They didn't want to admit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so once the hurricane happened, there were a lot of more homeless here, right? So they couldn't deny it. Now it's in their budget items because they're housing all these homeless. Well, a percentage of those homeless are veterans in every class. What we did was we explained to them the crisis. They denied it. We explained to them the solution.
And that was going on for years, even before the hurricane.
For like 2 years before the hurricane. We explained the solution. They denied it. They didn't want to fund it. They didn't want to participate in it. They funded crackheads and convicts and illegals over veterans and law enforcement. And so we continued to have event after event to bring a recognition and awareness. The hurricane came through, exacerbated the problems. Now they couldn't deny it because they're paying for hotel rooms. It's a line item in their budget to house their homeless. And a percentage of those are obviously veterans. And so once we identified that it really is the case, then we were just basically shunned. They held their heads down and they didn't want to talk to us any further because they knew that there was no denying it. And then with regards to getting funding, the $250,000 the local government agreed to give to the Biden broadband initiative to get $2 million in liberal grant funding, right? To dangle that carrot over them and say, hey, we'll give you this grant if you'll ignore everything else that's going on over here. The conservative Republican local government fell lock, stock, and barrel for it and gave away $250,000 of our money. I was trying to get that back and still solve the internet access solution or crisis with the solution from Elon Musk and Skylink. What's it called? Skylink.
Starlink.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of people don't realize that the internet is a big issue in the mountains, because if you take something like broadband, you have to lay down miles and miles and miles of broadband cables up here in the mountains, and that might cover only maybe like a dozen or so households.
Yeah,
and it costs hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do that.
Yes.
And so you're sitting there saying, it's like, well, we could bypass all that just by advocating for Starlink to come up here, which there's already a previous test site over in the Silva community. Is where they started.
Yeah, much cheaper solution, much more efficient, much more immediate. The whole thing made sense, but they simply ignored it.
They wanted the federal funds.
Yeah, they wanted that federal funding, and we all know why that is. So what we did was, after the storm, we asked them how they got internet. And of course, they didn't wait for the broadband initiative come through that 0 people have gotten internet from. They went to Starlink immediately so that they could open up communications with first responders, emergency operators, and have access to the world. And Elon Musk provides that, and even developed a plan for our local government, and no one even showed up to the meeting that was presented by the Director of Government Affairs for SpaceX.
So you were able to get in touch with Starlink, with the folks at SpaceX, to say we want to bring this to our county to not only help the people, but also specifically help the veterans in the area. And you had a meeting that was set up, and you had local leaders essentially refuse to go to it because they still wanted to get the influx of grant funding into the county.
Yeah. So we came up with a complete solution. We communicated with SpaceX. They assigned a government, Elon assigned a government contract manager, a government solutions manager to our situation that designed a program that would work locally, that would allow that $250,000 to be saved. And if I could have a percentage of that for veterans and still use a percentage of that for the solution, and we didn't need the grant from the federal government, it would be a win-win situation for everybody. And they just completely ignored that, didn't show up to the meeting, didn't allow me the opportunity to save the funds, to relocate those funds to help veterans in crisis. And so their priority is not veterans. Their priority is getting that grant funding into their pockets so that they can contribute back to the political campaigns of those people that they want to see in power. And it's just terrible. It is terrible, terrible, terrible politics. But I've been fighting it all along the way, Luke. And so I go there, I explain to them the solution, I have the credentialed individuals present the solution, and then my hands are tied. They've got to take action. Every conservative Republican here voted for the liberal Biden broadband plan over the solution, the most cost-effective and most efficient and most immediate solution to internet access in rural America, which is Starlink, and Starlink handed it to them on a silver platter.
I remember when I was working at the paper there in Avery County, and I did a story about how Starlink could solve, or as much as they could, the lack of internet connectivity in these rural mountain areas.
Yes, sir.
And they had a satellite test site set up at one of the elementary schools out in the Silva area.
Yes, sir.
Where the students were there actually using Starlink.
Yes, sir.
In the school and their homes.
Yes.
And I did the article, and I had one of the photos from SpaceX on the front page of the paper of their satellite spaceship going up.
Yeah, launching the satellites. Now, it's amazing technology. It's the latest, greatest technology in the internet. And the broadband at one time was, but it's antiquated technology at this point. And nowadays, this satellite technology, Amazon's going to it, Starlink's gone to it, other major corporations are going to it, whole countries are going to it. And war-torn areas, they're running wars off Starlink technology. If they can run, Ukraine's a perfect example. If they can run a war off Starlink technology, they can definitely run these rural areas and communities off Starlink technology, which they figured out after the hurricane, after the fact. And when I went back to them, they still denied that they would participate in Starlink over this broadband DEI initiative that Biden came up with, that no one has been connected, and $250,000 of the local tax dollars have been wasted and set aside for that program, and not one veteran has benefited.
Right, and that's the main thing, is that you wanted the county to save those costs so those funds could go to this initiative to help the homeless veterans in the county.
Yes, sir.